ATM Hotep, welcome and peace to everyone. This is your brother Wujahu Meneb Erimaat. I'm here with a few fellow Seshu Mahdi Metal Netcher members. And so maybe you all can introduce yourselves to our listening audience.
ETM Hotep, welcome and peace, everybody. It's your brother June. Just want to say thanks for tuning in. We appreciate all support. You can help the channel out by liking the video. Once again, thanks a lot for tuning in. We appreciate it. Hotep.
Hotel Perfect. This is Imicat, and yes, welcome to Freestyle Fridays.
All right. Okay, so yes, this is our Freestyle Friday. Today is January 17th, 2020, 2020. Time is flying fast. We are in a new decade. We are over the halfway mark of January. So this is Friday, and we've resumed our Freestyle Fridays and also just our presence on our YouTube channel in general. You know, we're decided to be more consistent and going live with different conversations related to the Egyptian culture, the ancient Egyptian culture and language. So Freestyle Friday is something that we started some years back, where we test our skills in a fun way. And so we don't use any books, we don't use any glyph lists, books, or any assistance, and we do just what the title implies. We freestyle by doing our best to identify glyphs, identify words, and transliterate and translate. All right, and so we do that, publicly with input and participation from the chat. And so tonight will be no different. So anyone in the chat, we will be looking forward to your participation. All right. Or if you're watching from the archives, you can kind of participate and go right along with us. But before we move into our freestyle session specifically, I do want to announce that I am starting a new beginners class group. And so the flyer that you see on the screen is giving you a little bit more detailed information about the class. It's a beginner's introduction to Egyptian hieroglyphic. It lists the different things that you are going to learn, and it's a 12-week course. The course is designed to be self-paced, or you can teach yourself at your own pace. But the 12 weeks deals with the 12 2-hour sessions that are scheduled, one session per week lasting for 12 weeks. All right, so I put together a group so that we can walk through the lessons in a sequential order for 12 weeks. And so if you're interested, or if you know someone who's interested, make sure you pass the word, spread the word. All right, so do any of y'all have any comments or any topics you want to bring up before we jump into the freestyle?
Not me specifically.
Okay, nothing.
Not at this time. I probably will have a lot, but not at this time.
All right. Okay. How about you, June?
Uh, no, not really. I'm ready to jump into the Freestyle Friday, but I do want to give people a reminder. We had brought it up a couple shows ago about a book giveaway that we're thinking about doing. Nothing special, just to give people, information on the scripts and the language. So keep an eye out on that. Check out our Facebook page. All the links are in the description. So if you get a chance, check out all the links in the description and keep your eye out on for our book giveaway that we're gonna be doing soon.
All right. Well, I was hoping that you all had something to talk about while we buy some time, give people a chance to come on in and everything.
I, yeah, I do know that something that's on people's minds is tomorrow. you know, gonna be going over Imhotep's channel, I believe. We're gonna have going over his book or the critique about his book on the soup. So that's something that I know is on people's minds as well.
Okay. So, anything else?
Pseudo stuff that we've seen around, there's a lot, but I don't know if you want to cover all that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's a lot going on, like on Facebook with people just making random claims about Kemet, you know, uh, and things like that. People always want to tie it to some outer space stuff or esoteric things, yeah. So I see that a lot, but sometimes so you don't pay so much mind because it's like it's coming from people who don't really read or can read the Sesh per se. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, tomorrow Asar Imhotep will be at 7 p.m. Saturday, which is tomorrow at 7 p.m. Asar Imhotep will be addressing a 30-minute critique for his book entitled Nisud Biti. So he's going to actually take a video clip, 30 minutes of video clips, and he's going to walk point for point through a critique that someone did of his book, and he's going to address each of the points of critique one by one. So that's going to be very interesting, and so make sure you all set your reminders and tune in on Asari Motep's channel, YouTube channel. That's at 7 p.m. tomorrow, Saturday, Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. All right, so make sure you check that out. Was there anything else? You said pseudo things.
Yeah, pseudo stuff, and I mean, but a lot of these things is what we're trying to, make people aware of. Like even that video critique, like, I think it's nice of our side to kind of like, take time and agree to kind of look over the video critique because who does video critiques of a book? Like, but yeah, it's nice that he can, finally sit down and educate us on how these things is supposed to be done because really like the least somebody could do is put their thoughts or critiques on paper. I don't know why people are always afraid or lazy when it comes to just committing to writing, just to being scholarly. But yeah, but that's going to be interesting. You know, YouTube critique. But yeah, I just think people are just lazy like that. A video critique, that's just laziness, and then you have all this pseudo stuff. Like, man, I'm just tired of seeing all these things. Like it's just too much laziness going on. It's just too much microwaving going on. But
Right.
sometimes you gotta accommodate it, like we are doing, like Masai is doing tomorrow night. Just accommodate it as a teaching lesson, like you always say.
Yeah, you can always tell the lazy ones by or the understudy by the questions that they ask. As true scholarship, it doesn't work that way. You research for yourself, you come up with your findings, and then when you do have to ask a question, you first present your findings and then you ask the question. That is way more scholarly and less lazy. People sometimes just take the easy route out, and then there's problems with that because they can ask someone a question, but they might not have the tools to discern whether the answer is correct or valid or not. So you can always tell. So that's one piece of advice I would give to people when it comes to questioning something. Do your research first, then report back with your findings with your questions, and just makes everything go a lot more smoother.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so speaking of what we people refer to as pseudo, let me share this first before we get into freestyle, and
Oh
hopefully the
boy.
link for this video that we're doing is being passed around. Now, normally, lately we've been going live later than now. So I know this is earlier time, and we may go live again later on. and do our usual late discussions. So what we're doing now is Freestyle Friday, and we're a little bit earlier than what people may be expecting. So make sure you spread the word and share the link. But if you look at this particular post, I grabbed this from, well, actually, someone sent it to me from Facebook, and you can read what it says. So it says, it's from Jamel Neteru on January 11th. It says, you can't forget about the giants of the world, the best kept secret. And then I guess there's a YouTube link there, but they're showing, the first picture here is an obelisk, and then you have a picture of two people constructing the obelisk. And so I guess what they're implying here is that you see how big the obelisk is in relationship to the people down here. And so this carving on the wall where these Egyptians are as tall as the obelisk, the implication is that they're giants. So they must be as tall as this obelisk in the picture. So that's the first set. And then on the bottom set, you have an individual carrying a block, balancing a block on his shoulder, two blocks on his shoulders, but you can only see one right here. And then he's showing an actual picture of a block in relation to the size of a man. And so again, the implication is that this person to the left is a giant. And so therefore, that's why they say you can't forget about the giants of the world, best kept secret. So this is what we're up against, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we're up against. We're up against this type of thinking. Now, I have no idea who this person is that posted this, but they're not alone. I see this all the time. And, we don't have time to address each person that posts things like this. It's just very unfortunate, and it's sad. It's not even funny. You may want to laugh at first, but when you sit back and think about it and you see it happening so much, it's not funny. It's actually disturbing that people would do this and think what they're thinking, and then pass it on to another person who may be just as gullible, and then they take it in and believe it, and then pass the word, spread the word as well. But this is what we're up against. It's just a matter of understanding Egyptian art and knowing that within different scenes, they use size for ranges of importance. So the bigger the size of the figure was, the more focus and importance that figure was. Not that the figure was that size in relationship to the other objects in the picture. This is something very, very simple that people could learn if they just simply take the time out to take Egypt or Kemet out of the microwave oven and put it back into the slow cooker. Put it back into the conventional oven and let it slowly simmer and bake, which is my way of metaphorically saying that, or figuratively saying, I should say, people have to slow it down and really study Kemet with all of the available tools. And this is what I've been saying lately up front, but I've been saying it for years, along with others, that Kemet is not microwavable. You cannot rush through a study of Kemet and just look at pictures and Google a book or two, or even read a book or two. You can't do that and expect to know about Egyptian language and culture. You can't do that. And if that's all the time you have, it's all you can do because of your time, that's fine. But that being the case, you should realize that you're severely handicapped and you have no business whatsoever trying to debate and argue about Kemet, for or against it, if you can't take the time to put in the work. Period. That's just it. All right. So again, this is something that is just completely false. There were no giants in Kemet at all, and these images are not of giants at all. All right.
Yeah, that is crazy. And I mean, we actually went over this. You've gone over it on when we discussing perspective. We went over it. I think this week, But for those people who would like to know more about what you just stated, with I think that some good books are like the ones we mentioned last week, which was Principles of Egyptian Art by Henrik Schäfer. But then there's also a really good book that talks about, what you say is the different canons and proportions in Egyptian art, because it will let you know, like, even what kind of proportions they're using. It's not literal, it's figurative, let's put it that way. So a good book is Canon on Proportions in Egyptian Art, as well. And I think that's by, what's the name of this, Aris and Phillips,
It'd
no,
be,
Eric Iverson.
hmm if you can
Yeah.
post that in the chat, I think people
Yeah,
appreciate that.
I'll put that on the chart. And then in the penmanship book, it kind of again went over that part, and even what is known as what you talked about called the hierarchical proportion. And that is what, when you're emphasizing using proportion and scale to emphasize figures that are more important, and that will be like kings and the Netcher and things like that. So you can't just take what you see, for face value. Like, so you can't microwave stuff. No leadership, no microwaving. I mean, everything is there's a method behind it, even with what the Egyptians did. So even just looking at the images, those the images on themselves, forget the text, and thinking that that's an easy thing to translate, or just to assume that it is what it is. I mean, you're not doing it any justice. So you have to really slow down this. When it comes to Kemet, you gotta slow it all down, and just do things like from scratch, and understand the rules, and the methods and all that stuff. So there's no escape, because if you don't, then you start making up stuff like that.
hmm All right, exactly. And so the penmanship book that you mentioned is the book that's on the right, the far right. Simplified Sesh Medew Netcher Penmanship, a lesson in Egyptian hieroglyphic writing. This is book 1, which deals with the Monoliterals, written by Emiket Aku Kinshai Akinyi, who is right here on the panel, who just spoke. So I know you cover that in the book, and so if you want to give the reference, the author's name of the other books that you mentioned in the chat, that'd be good.
Yes,
So
I do.
so yeah, make sure you all pick up the book about that. You'll learn all 3 of these books that you see on the screen. The far left is a beginner's introduction to Medew Netcher. It's a textbook that's used for the beginner's course. As I said, I'm starting a new beginner's course, a class group for January. Okay, so you can, matter of fact, I'll post the flyer up. I had it up for a while. That's the textbook that we use for that course. The middle book is Has the Egyptian Hieroglyphic Writing System Been Deciphered? A Rebuttal to Walter Williams, written by Seshu Mani Medew Netcher, the group. And in that book, the middle book, we refute all of the claims that Professor Walter Williams made towards the decipherment of the writing system. And this was picked up by people later, and they were, pretty much championed that claim. And so we basically addressed every single claim that he made, and that's a very good book. It actually complements the textbook on the left, far left, because we go deeper into the writing system, how it works, and what is a writing system, what is decipherment, what is transcription, what is transliteration, what is translation, and what is decipherment. We make those distinctions, define them, show you what they're all about and how it's done. So we cover all of that. That book is written in 2 parts. The first part is educational, what you need to know, and then the second part is the actual point-for-point rebuttal to Professor Walter Williams's claims. All right, so make sure you all pick up those books off of Amazon. All right. Also, another book is a book written by the Shemsu Heru research team, which includes myself, the brother Asar Imhotep, and the brother Sanjeti. And we wrote this as a preliminary introductory article or information as a contribution to the debate on the meaning of the place name Kemet. As you all remember, last year there was a big conversation about whether Kemet means, whether, the name of the country, Kemet, or the kingdom of Kemet, it refers to the skin color of people or the black soil and things like that. So we wrote this as an introductory. Actually, this was actually written so that people could have something to read and put their eyes on as a result of being invited to the ASCAC conference where the topic came up. But we all know when you do presentations at conferences, you're limited on time, very limited on time, and there's no time to really flesh out and unfold information in a way that you're explaining everything. There's no way possible you can explain everything that you need to explain for any listening audience. So really all you can do at a presentation like that is to just give bullet points and give a summary of your information, conclusions, and things like that. So we wrote this to give people more, something to look into, research, read, and things like that. All right. So that's why that was written, but you can pick that up also on Amazon. So if you're ever wondering what the place name Kemet means, that's where you can start. And there's more to come. We're actually going to do a full treatment on it. So this is, like I said, this is like an introductory information, but it'll put you on the right track. All right. Okay. So again, ETM Hotep, welcome to our Freestyle Fridays. I think we can go ahead and get started. Now.
Let me give a reminder, kind of about that picture that you showed earlier. We got to remember that most of these pictures they're like cropped. So I'm pretty sure that there was some writing around those pictures that accompany those pictures, and we could never divorce the writing from the images. So that'll also cut down on some of the pseudo-ship, because they often crop these pictures and say, okay, this is what it is. But if you zoom out and look at the writing, you would get more of a basis of what is really going on in the picture. So I just want to give that reminder to people that we can't divorce the writings from the images.
That's an excellent point, and I hope people will understand that. Never do that. All right, but this is a picture again. I'm showing again what you were talking about. So again, there are no such things as giants in ancient Kemet. No such thing. All right. I can understand children in that their imaginative age range and things like that. You could believe that. But for adults, grown adults, people who are seriously studying ancient Kemet, no. All right. So we can move on from there. All right. So let's jump into our freestyle. But at first, again, I am starting a new class group for the month of January as a beginner's introduction to Egyptian hieroglyphic. So if you're interested or you know someone who's interested, make sure you take a screenshot or, give them a link to this video so they can see the flyer. I posted it on Facebook as well. And the website is at the bottom, sableuniversity.com. You look for this course and you register. It's only $100 for 12 weeks if you have the textbook. If you don't, it's $130. All right, straightforward. And yeah, so looking to get started, make sure you spread the word. Now, Freestyle Friday. So what are we going to get into this evening? First, we need to explain the method. All right, so let me show everyone what the method is and the steps in the method. All right, so transliteration and translation method. There are 4 main steps. And I'm going to pass the mic to someone else to read these 4 steps for us.
I'll read them. ETM Hotep Rennie Sean, by the way. Welcome and peace. My name is Sean. So I want to say peace to everybody in the chat. Please continue to share the link. The 4 main steps would be: first is your observation. So you want to determine the direction in which to read the glyphs. And second step should be your data collection. Identify and document each individual glyph. And the third step would be your pattern recognition, where you could group the glyphs into words to be searched in dictionaries. And the fourth would apply the grammar, where you can come up with a sensible translation.
All right, all right. So if you all are used to us explaining these 4 steps, you can see that I've added some more descriptive terms on what you're doing from step 1 through step 4. So it makes it a little more clearer, and hopefully that'll clarify some things, some questions that people asked previously. But now let's back up a little bit. So what do you need, or let me ask do you need anything to perform step 1? Do you need anything, any resources or anything like that to perform step 1? This is for anyone.
Two.
Oh, we do? What's that?
Oh, determine which direction to read the glyphs.
Step 1. Do you need any helpful resources or anything?
Nah.
Okay.
Your eyes.
Yeah, please your eyes. But yeah, that's really it.
Okay, so the answer is no. You
Yeah.
don't need anything other than your eyes and obviously the text that you're, examining. All right. So step 1, basically you don't need anything. Same question for step 2. Do you need any resource to help out with step 2?
Yes.
Okay, and what's that?
You will need the glyph list or sign list.
Okay, so you would need a glyph list or a sign list. All right, that's for step 2.
Correct.
Step 3, is there anything needed to help out with step 3?
Yeah, you better have your tools.
No, which one?
Step 3.
What's
Preferably a dictionary,
okay, all right.
a Vigus.
All right, so an Egyptian dictionary would be needed for step 3. Okay, anyone that you're familiar with. Now we recommend get them all. All right, but of course, the whole point of step 3 in terms of resources that you'll need are dictionaries. All right, and step 4.
Same dictionary.
Dictionary for step 4.
You don't need a dictionary or a grammar book.
Oh, okay, yeah, I get you. So okay, we've already gone through the dictionary, so now you're gonna need yourself.
Right. So what you're gonna need is your knowledge of the grammar.
Right.
All right. And maybe an Egyptian grammar will help you out if you need help and get stuck. All right. So I just want to say it. I want to point that out so people will understand. Now the difference with what we do on Fridays is that we don't use any of that. All right. So Freestyle Fridays is just what the title implies, freestyle. So we don't use any of that. All right. So those are the steps. So make sure you all understand the steps to transliteration and translations. All right. So let's get into what we're going to actually do it with. I'm going to go through these steps with this particular picture. So here is the, well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about fieldwork. Now, we were told that going to museums and things is doing field work in this. So we wanted to make sure that we did some field work, and we wanted to keep up with the museums and doing some field work. So Sonnet Emiket was kind enough to do some field work out there in the field, and she retrieved this particular picture for us out there in the field while she was conducting field work. And so here's the picture that we're going to be using for our freestyle session. So give a chance for everybody to have a look at it, observe, make your initial observations about it, because I'm going to zoom in on the text that we see towards the top. So I want everyone to be able to see most of the picture as a whole right now first. And while I have this up on the screen, Emiket, how did that field work go? What was that experience like?
Oh, that was very good. What I liked most about it was that I didn't have to, pay any entrance fee. I didn't even have to take a flight, So, so that was pretty interesting, and and then I didn't have to wait until the museum opened and all that kind of stuff. So I get that complete VIP treatment, free,
Oh, okay.
cheap. Yeah, it's cheaper than whatever. So no payments, and then I could just sit and sip some tea, all that kind of stuff, while just have all these things like these
Mm,
glyphs being brought to me and all that stuff. So a lot of primaries. So I kind of picked. I think this was good for tonight. But yeah, I got the VIP treatment.
okay, nice. So it was free. You didn't have to leave the comfort of your own home, did you?
Oh, not at all.
Right. No flights. It was free, and you were actually able to do some field work. That's man, you can't get any better than that. All right, so that's the picture we're going to be dealing with. All right, so now we're going to zoom in and we're going to walk through each of those steps. Now, for time's sake, we're gonna be rather quick on some of these steps, and you'll see. All right, so let's see if we can zoom in a bit here. So we're gonna work with the top portion, and now normally I would have the glyphs, the way they're organized. I would have them numbered to where we would know exactly where we are when we're having this discussion. But because Emiket did her field work, just kind of like at a last minute type of thing and everything, we didn't have time to put the numbers on there to label these things. All right, so we're just gonna jump in. So step one, what is step one? Let's remind everyone what step one is.
Figure out which direction. Oh, go ahead, Sandrine.
You're almost done. Determine the direction to read the glyphs.
Okay, so step one is an observation step. So you're gonna use your eyes, you're gonna observe, and what you're looking for is you're gonna determine the direction in which the glyphs are to be read. So let's deal with that. So we're gonna give that to the chat. So I want you all in the chat to tell us what direction should we read these glyphs. And I'm going to ask another question along with that is, are all the glyphs, should all the glyphs be read in the same direction, or are we looking at two different sets of directions? So I'm going to, give a chance. There's a little lag. Give a chance to see what everyone comes up with in the chat. All right. And yeah, don't have these numbered, so it's going to be a little tricky. But you all should be able to see my cursor.
Yeah, but I think it's just all right because you gotta get used to how you would be reading them in real life, so you don't usually get all those numbers in there. So that's a good exercise.
All right. Okay. While everyone's answering that question, and if you all can monitor the chat, I'm gonna see if I can get this situated to where we can make sure everyone can follow along with where we are.
Okay, and I think it would be easier if if you're in a chart, and then if you're talking about columns, you could say which columns from the first. If it's first two columns, is it first two columns from the left or first two columns from the right? Just so we have a better idea from where to start.
Okay. So, any answers? I mean, how are we looking?
Yes, we got Juju and Angelina. So Juju says first two columns from the left will be right to left.
Okay.
And Angelina said right to left. And then Juju said the last 8 from left to right. So the rest will be from left to right.
Okay, so I'm going to switch over so that we can have some kind of organization on here. All right, so I switched over to so I can show some arrows so that we can follow along. All right, so we have some. Okay, so lightentist says 2 sets. You said Julanda, first 2 columns. Okay, and the last 8 are left to right. All right. Now hold up. Now with step 1. Normally, the way people explain the directions in order to read the glyphs, you always hear 4 directions. But it's probably easier and less confusing if you look at it as two possible directions and 2 possible orientations. The 2 possible orientations are columns or rows, and the 2 possible directions are left to right or right to left. So if you kind of separate it like that in your mind, that will be a little bit more easier for everyone to kind of grasp the concept. All right. So with that in mind, are these glyphs in columns or are they in rows?
I think Juju already answered by saying first 2 columns.
Yeah, but I wanted specific in that way to answer two different questions for that.
Okay.
Are they in columns or are they in rows? And then determine if they're read from right to left or left to right. So, want to kind of wait to see what people are saying. there's a delay, so we're getting this moments of silence that say silence is deafening.
Right.
But Jolanda is correct on the direction. But I'm asking about orientation. Are these glyphs in columns or rows? And Juju is on it. She says columns, and that's correct. All right, so we know. So that is step 1. All right, so step 1 is covered. We know they're in columns, and the first 2 are read from right to left, which are, get my cursor over here. These first 2 columns here, these 2 that I'm pointing at, going back and forth on, those are read from right to left. And then the remainder of the columns are read from left to right. All right. So that is step 1. Step 2. Step 2 is what? Let's remind everybody, what is step 2?
That is that's the data collection step. So identify and document each individual glyph.
All right. So each individual glyph has to be identified. So, which means that you have to go through the entire text that you're dealing with and identify every single glyph. Now, at first, that sounds like it's a lot of work, and it is at the beginning. But as time goes on and the more practice you put in, you'll start to memorize and recognize glyphs on sight, and you won't have to look them up. Now, I always say this, by the time you sit down and make any attempts to transliterate and translate, there's, a certain level of information that you should already have under your belt. And one such, requirement is that you should have memorized all of what we call the monoliterals, which are 25 glyphs, and these are glyphs that represent single consonants, hence the word mono for one. So these are single consonant glyphs, and you should have those committed to memory even before you sit down and make an attempt to transliterate and translate. So immediately when you look at this image, this picture, you should already know what the monoliterals are. Just doing a quick scan up and down the columns, or should say down the columns, you will run into those monoliterals, and you should already know those, so you can rightfully skip those for step 2 because you know what they are. So really you're only looking up the ones that you don't know. All right, so just to have some participation, I am going to put this arrow in this column right here, and I'm going to ask the chat to count. I want a total number of monoliterals. You don't have to tell me what they are, but I want you to count them and tell me how many monoliterals are in this column. All right, again, how many monoliterals are in this column with this arrow pointing down? And so we'll see who can get that. All right. And just want to remind everybody, there's no such thing as giants in Kemet. Never were giants in Kemet. Also, the ancient Egyptians did not live with the dinosaurs.
The Anunnaki. A quick question is just to be clear. Is it how many monoliterals or how many types of monoliterals? In cases where there's repetition.
No, how many monoliterals?
Okay.
That's what I said, total. I want the total amount of monoliterals, if it repeats or not. All right, so we have Juju says 4. Mika says 4. Hassan says 5. Everything is everything says 1. Wow. All right. So let's see if anybody else wants to answer before we check. So we got a 4. We got someone says 5. We got someone that says 1. He said, everything is everything. I'm half guessing.
I thought you were full guessing.
Okay, all right, so let's count them. All right, so I'm gonna use the other arrow. We're gonna count them. Here's 1. So that's 1. So Emiket or June or Sean, you wanna let's walk down the column and then we can count them.
2.
All right.
So you have the you want me to give the names?
Yeah, that'd be good.
All right. So you have the relief.
All right.
You have the single stroke.
Monoliterals.
Oh, my bad. You got the 2 bread loaves.
We're walking down the column.
Yeah, you skipped 1.
What did I skip? Oh, my bad. The what is that? The snake.
Cobra.
The cobra. Yeah.
So that's
Cobra.
2. So that's 2. We're gonna count them. That's 2.
Hold on. All right, there we go. Cobra. Let's
That's
go
2.
next.
So that's 2. All right, next.
Where you have the K, so you have the basket with the handle.
All right, that's 3.
Yeah, you got your bread loaf.
That's 4.
Got another bread loaf.
Wait. So let's stop here. That's 4 already. So does anybody who said 4, you get a chance to change your answer?
Okay, and you change your answer to 5. We have a 13 too,
Mm.
or 15.
All right, so giving everybody a chance to change their answer. Everybody who said 4, because we're already at 4. We're already at 4. Okay, Mika says 6.
Mm. Must pull it out that book.
Jolanda says 5 now. Everything says new answer is 7. All right, Hassan says 7. All right, so we're gonna keep it moving. So we're at 4 already. So just to repeat, we got the reed leaf, cobra, basket with handle, bread loaf. All right, so next.
Bread loaf again.
All right, so that's 5.
And then you have the hill.
And the hill, 6. So the answer is 6.
Yeah, so Mika got it.
All right, so Mika got it.
Yes.
It's 6. 6 monoliterals. All right. Now, as I said before, though, prior to you sitting down, making an attempt to transliterate and translate, you can't just, come out the blue and try to translate these things. Obviously, there's some information that you would have learned, whether it's on your own, taking some kind of course with a competent teacher, or some way you have to have some information under your belt. And one of the important things, is that you should have memorized the monoliterals. All right, there are 25 in number. Sometimes you may see people say 24, and that's because the reed leaf for one of the consonants doubles. So you'll see 2 reed leaves, but it's a reed leaf twice, so that's why you may see some people say 24 distinct glyphs. And then there's some variations of the glyph. Like, for example, not in this column, of course, but the glyph of the water ripple is sometimes substituted, which is translated as N, as in Nancy. Sometimes it's substituted by the lower crown, the red crown of Lower Kemet, for N. All right. And then we have a quail chick, which is this glyph over here, which is translated as W. Sometimes that is represented by a coiled rope. A coiled rope. All right. All right. So, but that's good. That's good. So that is step 2. But now, us here on the panel, let's identify some of the biliterals. Well, okay. No. Let's see. Let's see if anybody can identify the biliterals. Well, let me ask. What would be a good question to ask? Okay, so this is a little bit more advanced now, but let's give it a shot. How many biliterals are in this column? The same column. You won't have to transliterate it, but how many biliterals are in this column? So that's a question for the chat. How many biliterals are in this column?
Okay, while we do that, Black Lion Scream has a question. He was making a statement, but maybe you could clarify. He said, I thought every mark was a monoliteral. So I think he was under the assumption that every single glyph is a monoliteral.
No, not at all. Not at all. There's only 25 monoliterals. Remember, monoliterals are glyphs that represent one consonant, and they're transliterated with one character in the English, our orthography that we transliterate these glyphs in. All right. You have glyphs that represent single consonants, 2 consonants, bi, 3 consonants, tri, 4 quads, 5, and I forget what the word is for 5. So anything above monoliteral, we sometimes say multiliteral. So there are glyphs that represent 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 glyphs. All right. All right. So let's see what our people saying. How many biliterals do we have in this column? Do you all see any answers?
Julanda says 1. Hassan says 6. Mika says 5.
All right. So let's go ahead and walk through it.
Ooh.
So, since Sean did the last one, June or Emiket, if y'all want to walk us down and let's point out these biliterals.
Okay, I know June must be tied up, so I'll take it.
I'm right here. My bad. My bad. I was trying to unlock my phone. It's for the first biliteral in this column. I will go down to the face. That's a biliteral transliterated capital HR. And then I think there's only one more in this column, and it's the bull. In the middle of the column is the bull, transliterated B, capital A. And I think that's it for the biliterals in this column.
All right. Emiket, you got anything else?
I was thinking on the top, if it's M, if that's a cross. No, that's image. Okay, got it. Forget that. Nedge, but that's a biliteral too.
So the answer is 3.
Yes.
There are 3 biliterals in this column. The first one is Nedge, N capital D. Next one, as June said, Her, which is capital HR. Third one is Ka, K capital A. All right. So it's 3 biliterals. Another question, triliterals. How many triliterals are there? That should be easy. It's a process of elimination now at this point. But let's ask, how many triliterals are in this column? We can be quick with this one. Triliterals. These are glyphs that represent 3 consonants. Three consonants.
We wait on the chat.
Yep. Okay, Hassan says 3. Julanda says 2. Mika says 3. All right, so I think we got enough answers. So let's see who is correct. So who wants to tackle that one?
So far I see 2.
2?
Yeah, because from the top, I see Heka and Nefer at the bottom. Because right after we've eliminated all the way from the top to the bull. So the next one is that standard thing with the feather on top, but that's 4. And then the other one I think is a determinative. So yeah, the heels. So then we only have those 3 at the bottom. We eliminate the heel. So now we have the crook for Heka and then Nefer. That's why I say 2.
Crook and Nefer. So you're saying the crook and Nefer only 2?
Yeah.
Okay. What about that one?
Isn't it imminent?
Is it?
Oh, or Eab?
Hmm?
Eabited. Is it EIB? EAB?
No, in terms of.
Yeah, no, that's a quad. What is it called? Quadrant. Eabit. That's what I'm thinking. And then the hill is like a determinative.
Okay. All right. So now that's tricky though. Um, that this is tricky, and I know why we getting different answers for this one. So we know that.
No, I think it's Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Um, this one seems tricky because we see a bread loaf here. So if it's aminet, then the T is here. So people will think that, okay, this may be amin, and then the T will be the aminet, the T in the aminet. Or it could be what we understand as a phonetic complement for the T. All right. So what we can identify is, as Emike said, the heka and then the fair.
Yeah, I think Yamenet is actually, or Imenet is even just the glyph on its own is a quadliteral.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Oh, okay, got you.
I was saying as a quadriliteral, it has a phonetic complement of a T. And then the next T will make
Right.
it a feminine Nisbe. But that's a whole nother discussion. All right, so that's all of step 2, because I don't want to spend too much time on step 2. But step 2, again, is to identify the glyphs. And so we just use this column, this single column, just to kind of get you all to understand what that entails, looking up or actually identifying the glyphs. And so when you're doing that process of step 2, you're going to identify them, but you would normally use a glyph list that will help you out. Right now, we're doing it from the top of our heads. But what you would want to know or take away from that is what the glyph is, how is it transliterated, and how it can possibly function. So now we're going to move to step 3. So let's remind everybody of what step 3 is.
So pattern recognition, this is where we group glyphs into words that are going to be searched in the dictionaries.
All right. So step 3 is a pattern recognition step. So now what makes this step important, or well, actually challenging, I should say, is that there's no punctuation in Sesh, Medew, Netcher. There are no commas, there are no periods, there are no colons, semicolons, no capitalization of words, no spaces between words. None of that exists in the writing system. So the only way that you're going to know one word from another word is by recognizing the patterns of individual glyphs, and you have to put them into the groups that they are that they should be associated with to produce words. And one of the key things that help us in doing that is a glyph or glyphs that function as what? And I'm asking the chat. There's a certain function of glyphs, or I should say there are glyphs that function as blank that help us determine where one word ends and another one begins. Fill in the blank. There are glyphs that function as blank that will aid us in determining where one word ends and another word begins. Y'all gonna see what I did there in a minute. One more time, because we got the silence here. There are certain glyphs that function as blank that help us to determine where one word ends and another one begins. Fill in the blank.
Somebody said this is harder than micro here.
No, Black Lion Supreme. It's actually not. It's just it just takes some time and dedication, but it's not hard. Okay, so Hassan has a correct answer, but he's kind of a little sure he's asking determinatives. But yes, that's correct. That's correct. They're called determinatives. Okay. So MEK, what are determinatives? Let everyone know what determinatives are.
Determinatives give us semantic meaning of the words, so they help us figure out what the word means.
Okay. All right. So determinatives help determine the meaning of the word, as well as it helps us to determine where the words end. Why? Why do determinatives help us to determine where words end?
Is that for the chat?
It's for you.
Oh, okay. They do that because they usually appear at the end of words.
All right. Easy enough. So determinatives come at the 99% of the time, they will come at the end of words. It's only a few exceptions. We can count them on our hands pretty much. All right. Or a hand. I count them on one hand. All right. So what's another thing about determinatives? What else can we say about determinatives? Yeah, if you all are driving, if you all are trying to tune in driving, listen, I don't want to be responsible for any, situations. So make sure you be careful because like when we do this kind of stuff, I know it's tempting to look at your phone and participate or type or, whatever. You wait until you get to the red light and texting something or whatever the case is. So, be careful out there. I definitely wouldn't recommend you participating at all if you're driving. You could just listen in. All right. I just want to put that disclaimer out there, safety disclaimer out there. But what else can we say about determinatives?
Chat panel.
And she said she was stopped. Yeah, I was asking the chat. This is for the chat. What else can we say about determinatives? So this is what we said so far. Determinatives help determine the meaning of words, and then they also help determine where words end, and then obviously where another one will begin. But what else can we say about determinatives? And this is for the chat. What else can we say about determinatives? I'm looking for two things, at least two answers. What else can we say about determinatives? Okay, Jolanda and Mika gave answers, but that was what we already said. So remember, they help determine the meaning of a word, and they help determine where words end and another one begins. But two more things. Okay, Hassan is correct, but that's the answer we already gave. It's two more things, two additional things. Everybody's repeating the same thing.
Right.
All right, so Sean or June, you want to help them out?
I was thinking that they aren't transliterated or pronounced.
But okay, bam, there you go. That's the two. So they are mute, which means they are not pronounced, and they're not transliterated. That's the two things. So they're not pronounced and they're not transliterated.
Someone said they can also be numbers or asked.
Okay. no, the determinatives won't be numbers. So those are the four things. So let's say there's four things again. Determinatives are glyphs that 99% of the time they will come at the end of a word, and because they come at the end of a word, they help determine where a word ends and another one begins. 2, determinatives are so named because they help determine the meaning of words. Okay, that's how they got their nickname, determinatives. 3, they are mute, which means they're not pronounced. And 4, they're not transliterated. All right. So that is that. So in step 3, when you're recognizing patterns, let me shift back to here. I just need some kind of English statements. So what I want you all to pay attention to is these 4 lines of statements here. Step 1, 2, 3, and 4. And when you read this in English, we have the luxury of having our words separated by spaces. But what I want to point out to you is that when you're reading this, even if the spaces didn't exist, your mind is going to reach out for patterns. It's going to recognize patterns. And when we read this, we're not like, let's say this first word, determine. When you read this, when you look at this, you're not seeing an independent DETERMINE. That's not the way your mind is working. Your mind is actually looking at the full word, determine, and then direction, and so on and so forth. And so what happens is when you practice enough and over time, you'll start to recognize patterns in the glyphs. Like right now, when you look at these glyphs, because you're not as familiar or acquainted with them, you're going to see individual nice, pretty pictures. So you're going to say, hey, okay, this is a basket. This is a cobra. You're going to look at them independently. But as time goes on and as you get more used to doing this stuff, you will recognize patterns immediately. You'll start recognizing words the same way you'll recognize English words. Okay? So keep that in mind about step 3. But step 3 is pattern recognition. So you're going to group these into words. All right. So, and step 4 is to apply grammar. Okay. Now in step 3, because you can now recognize words, you can take those words and look them up if you don't know the meaning of the words. Okay. And you have to use a dictionary for that. But this freestyle, we're not going to do that. So now this is for us on the panel. What are some of the words that we can pick out and recognize? Well, let's stick with this second column. I mean, we kind of gonna use this, not the second column, but this column with the arrow. We're gonna use this column up. So, what are some of the words we can recognize in that column? This is for us on the panel.
When you say second column, is it the column where you have the red arrow?
Yes.
Okay. You can start from the top. You have image.
Okay, so let me put my arrow there.
So that will be the first 3 glyphs.
So the first 3 glyphs spell the word image. And what does it mean?
Homage or hail?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, excellent. Any other words we can identify?
The next 2 glyphs, we have the face, and then after that is the single stroke, capital HR, hair.
And
It's usually transliterated upon.
okay. But now
sometimes when you have the single stroke, you take the word as it is. So which would be also like face.
Okay. So it's either upon, on, or upon, or the word for face. All right. Anything else? Anything else we can recognize?
Yeah. I think the bull by itself is a word, ka.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Meaning?
Usually transliterated as bull
Translated.
or what's that?
Translated. You said transliterated, but
Oh, my bad. Sorry
mm-hmm.
about that. Yeah, usually translated as bull.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
The next four glyphs group into a word.
Okay, so we have the two bread loaves. We have the standard over a folded cloth and 3 hills. And what word is that?
West.
All right.
And
Amentet.
this one
This and west.
has a determinative. I think, yeah, this is the first word in this column with the determinative.
All right, and Satep is in the chat. He had put west in there. All right, anything else?
Yeah. Below that, the next two signs looks like the crook and the heel. It's one word.
Okay.
That's Heka, usually transliterated as ruler.
Okay. Yep. And
the last sign, Nefer, NFR, is one word, usually translated as perfect or beautiful.
Right. Good, perfect, beautiful, all that good stuff. All right, so that's anything else?
Yes, since the only thing we didn't translate was the basket with a handle for egg pronoun. I was going to say that because we talked about how, using determinatives to let us know when we've reached the end of a word. Sometimes we also get it from pronouns as well.
Can you say that again so everybody can understand everything you?
Yeah. So sometimes like that X suffix pronouns, they help us figure out when we've reached the end of a word, like determinatives would.
All right. Okay. Why is that? Uh-oh.
Because, well, they are suffixes, so they are they are bound to to the end of a word.
Okay. All right. Exactly. So the key thing is to understand that they are suffix pronouns, and they come at the end of words. All right. Okay. So that's good. So, for time's sake, we're not going to do that for every column. That's why we're picking on this particular column that I have the arrow on. So, let's give a more fluid reading of this in Egyptology speak. So if one of y'all can do that for the whole column.
And Netcher, Ek, Ka.
Of course, we would do that for all of the columns, okay? And then what we would do in step 4, we would have to apply grammar from the Egyptian language and bring it into the meanings in the English language, but the grammars don't match. So we would have to make some adjustment to know, in order to translate, you have to know both languages. more than one language, the language you're coming from and the language you're coming into. The source and the target language. You have to know those language, best accuracy as possible, to the best of the ability. All right. And that's where it gets a little creative. One match on grammar either. Okay. So this is why if you read the same text from multiple authors or scholars that did the translations, you'll come away with slightly different same translation because of that fact. All right. So we're going to pick on this same column and let's translate it now. So we did everything but translate it. So now let's bring it into English. So what is this saying in English?
I would translate it like...
Wait. Let me give people in the chat a chance. Since this is the final step, let's see if anybody will know. So this is for the chat. The column that we've been working on, we're looking for an English translation of this column only. So, they're saying that I'm buffering? Shouldn't be buffering.
Yeah, it was on mine too. I refreshed and it seemed to clear it up. It did it one more time, but it hasn't for a while.
Okay, we should be all right. All right, I'm going to have to look into that, but I'm green on this side. So, again, for the chat, does anyone have a translation for this column? See it as well. So let's get through this before the buffering gets out of control. So I'm not going to wait for the chat. So let's give a translation for this.
You, Bull of the West, perfect ruler, a beautiful ruler. Hail to you, Bull of the West, perfect ruler.
Okay, excellent. Hail to you, Hanej Herek, which is hail to you. And then we have Bull of the West will be Ka Imintet. Ka being bull, Imintet being the West, bull of the West or belonging to the West. And then Heka Nefer, Heka being ruler, Nefer being good, beautiful, or perfect. And it's describing ruler, so we would say good ruler, perfect ruler, etc. So that's it. And that's an example of all 4 steps being accomplished. Now we only did it with one column, for time's sake. But those are the steps. And so this is what we do on Freestyle Fridays. Now notice that we didn't use any books. And so if we can resolve this column, we could move on and do the rest of the columns for what we know from memory and everything. And this is a good exercise for those of you who are practicing this. Also try it freestyle first, and then at the end, crack open the books to check and verify yourself. So this is what we would do too. We wouldn't just leave it here and say, okay, we're done. We would actually go ahead and check behind ourselves, crack open the books, and anything we were unsure about, we would look it up. All right. So that's what you all should do as well. But that's it. That's how you transliterate and translate. And I want to say again, for this month, I'm starting a new beginners class group. Okay, you can register for the course anytime and take the course because it's self-paced. It's designed to where you learn at your own pace and with yourself. But I form these study groups or the class groups so that we can learn in a sequential order together as a group. And I form new groups every month. And so I'm forming a group for the month of January to begin at the end of January so that we can get it going. And that includes 12 2-hour sessions where we walk sequentially through the textbook, answer questions, everybody can chime in and get clarification on all the information. And at the end, of course, you're tested at each chapter, but at the end, you complete and pass each of the quizzes, And then the final exam and everything like that, you'll become certified. You'll receive a certificate. And anybody who knows or familiar with the classes, I'm very stingy with the certificates. So if you see anybody with a certificate, you best believe that they have shown proficiency, at least at a beginner's level of the transliteration and translation of simple text. All right. And that's what I hope for everyone. And we want to raise an army of scribes. We want people to be able to appreciate the Egyptian culture as it is and stop romanticizing it, stop mischaracterizing it, and stop speaking on it from a place of ignorance. We want to be able to engage and have meaningful conversations about Kemet from an informed position, giving informed opinions about it. All right. And so that's what we're pushing, and in hopes to change the dynamics of these conversations. There's a lot of people that like to talk about Kemet, but they really don't know much about Kemet. Okay, they just don't. And you won't know that until you yourself dive into it and take up a little more serious study of it. All right. So, anybody on the panel, y'all have any?
I have a question.
Okay.
Did bulls rule the West?
Well, if you take that text literally, yes, they did. They did rule the West. They ruled the West. Matter of fact, they didn't just rule the West. They were perfect rulers.
Right. So yeah, these people who are being ruled by bulls.
Exactly.
That was interesting.
Exactly. But let's pan out. Let's let me back away a bit. Oh. I just want to back away from so everyone can see the picture. Okay, so here's the full picture again. Do you see any bulls in the picture? You see any bulls? MK?
No, none.
Right, but it said hail to you what?
Hail to you, bull of the West.
Yes. Bull of the West, but we don't see any bulls in the picture. And literal bulls don't rule the West. So again, this is not literal. Hassan asks, what time and days will the classes be because I am in London? Okay, good question. The times and days of the class will be determined by, the majority of the group that's formed. So I'm very flexible, and I work with everybody's schedule. So I try to compromise and get a time where everybody will be available. And trust me, it's been a challenge for me because I've had people 6 hours in front of me, 6 hours behind me. A person lives in Hawaii. I had a person that lives in Uganda, in London, the whole nine. So I'm flexible, and I try my best to work that out. So time wouldn't be a factor till I am going to be buffering, and I really need to see what the buffering is about. Yeah, and if you make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you already subscribed, make sure that you hit click the bell. Okay, you have to click the bell to be notified. It's gonna turn your notifications on. So subscribing, YouTube, they changed that a while back. Subscribing is not enough. You have to actually click the bell to be to receive notifications. Okay, anybody else on the panel? Anything?
None.
June, Sean?
Nope, I'm good. What's on that table?
Oh, you didn't know that those were military rockets? Those are space shuttles.
Oh, okay. They look like a giant sitting down in front of them people, though. Is that how they spoke to each other with their hands in their
No. But what is that? What is that stance called?
hands?
Okay, let me answer this
Hold
question.
on, let me see. Let me see. I'm trying to see
Let me,
if I can recognize which foot's forward.
okay, let me answer this question. While you do that, though, Hassan asks, "Will payments be on your website?" Yeah, it's on Sable University. When you register, you're gonna go through the checkout and make a payment like you normally would, pretty much a regular online payment. So you can use PayPal or your debit credit card, whatever. So what were you saying, Sean?
It looks like his rifle is forward.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, so he's living.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm.
Okay.
That pose. Now there are people today who um they will mimic what we see here on that's carved on this stela, and we see this a lot. But now I'm gonna wrap it up. But let me get my cursor back on over here. This figure is male and female, how two people would be standing. So to us now, because they have to draw one of the arms and hands as if it's pulled back a little bit. But if they were to do this greeting in both palms towards the person, and they would be equal distance from each other, from the chest. Okay. So when you see people extend one arm, it's both hands up at the same distance, and you will greet someone, dua, or people will use it as a greeting and say dua or Netcher.
Yeah, a lot of these people are actually just depictions of determinative. So when people imitate these drawings, they're just pretty much doing,
All right. So we're gonna wrap this up. I know, yeah, I'm going in and out on the sound and everything, so we're gonna wrap it up. We're buffering right now. Hopefully, everyone has learned something and the takeaway from this Freestyle Friday. Now we may come back on for our late discussion as we normally do. Friday, we've been having these late discussions, so we may come on um, later on. Okay, it's 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time now, and we may come back on to have a late discussion on some different topics. All right, so just make sure you tick the bell, make sure you are subscribed, and come check us out. So any closing remarks from anybody on the panel? Sean, June, Emiket?
yeah, just dua to the chat, and hopefully we get back again. So because the interaction is usually good. So yeah, check that. And I think somebody brought the buffering deity with them on the chat, and that's what happened. So we'll figure out who the guilty culprit is. But yeah, dua dua for tuning in, yeah, and subscribe and hit the bell so that if we're going live anytime, then you get to know so you're not missing out.
All right. June, Sean, last thing? Yes, no, maybe so? Nope.
No, I
Thanks
just want to say Shimon Hotel.
we appreciate the support. Once again, if you want to help support the channel, give us a thumbs up and definitely, like they said, hit the bell to get the notifications. And I hope you guys left with something. Shemem Hotep.